I came back from the restroom to a table that looked erased. Two wine glasses sat half-drunk under the chandelier. A lobster tail lay untouched on a plate I hadn't ordered. My own soup cooled in front of an empty chair. My son, Connor, was gone. His wife, Savannah, was gone too. On the white linen, folded into perfect thirds, was a napkin with 2 lines in Savannah's sharp, looping script. "Enjoy dinner, Captain. Don't forget to tip." Around me, the dining room kept moving, forks clinking. Laughter low, but I felt the stares. The couple beside us paused mid-bite. A waiter hovered near the bar, uncertain, then finally walked over with a slim leather folder held to his chest. "Sir," he said gently, "your party asked that you take care of the check." I opened it. $3,500. A seafood tower, 2 bottles of reserve wine, top-shelf cocktails, gratuity already added. My fingers didn't shake. Not yet. I didn't chase them. I didn't call. I stayed. "Process it now?" he asked. "No," I said. "Not yet. Please ask the ship's dining manager to come over. Tell them Martin Hale is here." Then I sat down, watched the candle flame steady, and waited. I sat still until the candle in front of me burned low like a reminder. No one in the dining room spoke loudly, but I could still clearly hear chairs scraping, glasses clinking, and even the silences when people realized an old man had been left behind. The server stood beside me for a few seconds, then stepped back as if afraid of embarrassing me. I opened my wallet and took out my card, but I didn't hand it over yet. Not because I hesitated, but because I wanted everything to be recorded the right way. A joke only truly has value when it's stamped with truth. "Please get the ship's food and beverage manager," I said evenly. "Tell them I'm Martin Hale." He nodded. This time he walked faster. I looked at the bill again. $3,500. Items I didn't order. Things Connor and Savannah ordered as if someone else would deal with the consequences. On a ship, everything is charged to the stateroom account, and I knew they had arranged it so my name was in the most convenient place. An older person, unlikely to make trouble, someone who tends to nod. I used to approve budgets at the City Public Works Department. 37 years. I lived with numbers, and with the things people tried to hide behind a smile. I'm not rich. I'm just steady. I know how to read a statement like a confession. Connor is my only son. His mother died early, and from that day on, I learned to play 2 roles in a small house in the suburbs of Tampa. I packed lunches, changed light bulbs, took him to dental appointments, sat in the auditorium to watch him receive his high school diploma, and clapped loudly even though my hands were already calloused from working extra shifts. When Connor met Savannah, I tried. She was beautiful, sharp, and spoke smoothly like someone who had practiced. The first time she came to my house, she complimented the photo of Connor's mother on the shelf, then moved it somewhere else to make the frame look neater. I laughed, thinking it was just a decorating habit. Later I understood. She liked arranging everything her way, including people. In the early years, the exclusion came like fog, not visible at first, but cold. I knew they celebrated Connor's birthday from photos online, after everything was already over. I heard they had gone house hunting that weekend from an acquaintance, not from my own son. I brought a cake over. Savannah thanked me the way you thank a delivery person, then turned away. Connor isn't cruel, he's just soft. And that softness, in the hands of someone who likes control, becomes complicity. 3 weeks before this cruise, Connor called me. His voice was careful, as if he were rereading a sentence that had been edited many times. "Dad, come with us for fun. Get a little rest. You deserve it," Savannah texted afterward, sent the itinerary, told me to bring a nice jacket for photos, along with a line. "Dad just needs to show up." That line sounded like a gift, but it was a label. On the ship, Savannah went everywhere with her phone. She photographed wine glasses, the sea, herself, then told me to stand farther back for a wider shot. Connor smiled stiffly, as if he smiled long enough, everything would be okay. Tonight at the restaurant, Savannah ordered without looking at the prices. She asked the server about which wine was worth it, then looked at Connor, waiting for a nod. Connor nodded. I ordered soup. Savannah smiled, not openly malicious, just like someone who had just noticed something smaller than herself. I thought I could endure it. I had endured it for years. But when I came back from the restroom and saw the table empty, I understood this was no longer carelessness. This was a test. They wanted to see if I would chase after them, if I would call and cry, if I would make a scene so they'd have a reason to say I was overreacting. I gave them no reason. The kitchen doors opened. A man in his 50s stepped out with the restaurant manager, both in crisp uniforms. Their eyes swept over the table, over the bill, then stopped on me. The taller man approached and gave a slight bow. "Mr. Hale?" he asked. I stood up, adjusted my cuff as if preparing to sign a report. "Yes," I said. "I need you to confirm something before I pay." I didn't sit down right away. I stood straight, making them look at me the way you look at a truth you can't ignore. The taller man introduced himself as the ship's head of food and beverage, the other as the restaurant manager. I didn't need titles. I only needed procedure. "I want you to confirm," I said, pointing at the empty chair across from me, "that my son and his wife left the table while I went to the restroom, and that they said I would pay the entire bill." The manager glanced at his superior, then answered properly. "Yes, sir. They left and stated that you would handle the bill." "Good." I tapped my fingertip lightly on the leather folder. "Then, please also record that these items were not ordered by me." The head of food and beverage took the bill, his eyes stopping on the wine lines and the surcharges. "Would you like us to adjust it?" he asked, his tone softer now. I shook my head. "No, I will pay. But I need a complete copy, with the time, with a confirming signature, and filed with this note." I placed the napkin with the mocking words on the table. The manager read it and pressed his lips together. No one joked back. They simply worked. A staff member brought over a device. They photographed the bill, photographed the note, photographed the table code. I heard the screen clicking like the sound of stamping. "I have one more question," I said, still keeping my voice even. "On this ship, is there any rule about abandoning a dining companion to avoid responsibility?" The head of food and beverage answered immediately. "Yes, sir. We have a code of conduct and service abuse policy. When an incident is documented, the stateroom account can be flagged. Certain premium services will require a deposit or prepayment." I nodded once. That was enough. Not revenge. Standards. And standards, applied correctly, would speak for me. "All right," I said. "Then follow the procedure. I don't want noise." He lowered his voice. "I need the room number, and the names involved." I read the room number. I said Connor and Savannah's names. The manager's eyes flickered with a trace of understanding, as if they had seen this kind of behavior before wrapped in politeness. I slid my card into the folder. "Run it," I said. The machine approved. I signed, my handwriting straight and slow, like signing a document that can't be taken back. $3,500 didn't break me. What weighed on me was the intention. They wanted me to panic, to chase them, to turn into someone pathetic so they'd have a reason to look down on me again. The head of food and beverage handed me a copy, stamped with the time, along with his signature. "I'm sorry," he said. "Do you need any further assistance?" "I'm fine," I replied. "I just need this record kept intact." He nodded, then spoke so quietly only I could hear. "I'll notify guest services. You won't have to repeat the story." As explosers. When they left, I finally sat down. The candle had burned low. The soup was cold as rainwater. My son's chair was empty, and for the first time that night, my chest tightened. Not because I was left behind, but because Connor chose to leave me behind. I didn't open my phone. I didn't call. I put on my jacket, left the dining room, and walked into the corridor where the waves striking the hull sounded like a large heartbeat, steady, indifferent to every joke. Turning the corner, I saw them at guest services, beside the reservation screen. Savannah was smiling at the staff, her gestures overly familiar. Connor checked his watch, then glanced back toward the restaurant, like he was waiting for me to call so they could come back at the right moment. I walked past without stopping, but Savannah suddenly turned her head. Our eyes met. The smile on her lips faltered for exactly one beat. I didn't look back. I kept walking as if I were just passing through an ordinary corridor. But I could feel Savannah watching after me, and Connor turning too slower, heavier. Back in the room, I washed my face and hung my jacket neatly. Then I put the copy of the bill and the mocking note into a brown envelope. I had worked with files for years. I understood one thing. When emotions are dragged out as bait, the only thing that keeps you standing straight is documenting the truth. That night, I went out to the deck for a while. The sea wind was salty, cold. I stood there until my heartbeat became steady again. When people want you to explode, the fact that you stay calm is the answer. The next morning, I ate breakfast alone. Black coffee, eggs, bread. My phone vibrated. Savannah texted, "Dad, are you okay? Was last night fun?" I looked, then locked my phone. No reply. 10 minutes later, Connor called. I let it ring twice before I answered. "Are you back in your room?" he asked. "Yes," Savannah said. "The restaurant was too crowded, so we stepped out for a bit." I stayed silent long enough for him to understand that line wasn't going to pass. "For a bit," I repeated, "and you didn't wait for me to come back." Connor swallowed. "Dad, we thought you could pay, and then we would—" "Connor," I cut in lightly. "I already paid. It's done." Savannah's voice cut in, sharp but still trying to keep polite. "You're making this too big." "It's just a misunderstanding." I said to Connor, "I have plans. Don't call anymore." Then I hung up. By noon, I saw the first sign. At the reservation desk for the specialty restaurant, Savannah was standing there talking to a staff member. Connor stood beside her, eyes darting like he was afraid someone might hear. The staff member smiled politely. "Ma'am, the system requires a deposit in advance," he said. Savannah blinked. "Why? I have a priority package?" One-sided, putly defing. "Yes, but the stateroom account needs verification," he replied. "The deposit will be refunded if there are no charges." Savannah paused for a beat, then swiped her card, the motion harder than necessary. I walked past. Connor saw me first, his eyes widening. Savannah snapped around. "Dad, can we talk for a minute?" I stopped because I chose to stop. "Talk," I said. Savannah lowered her voice. "Last night isn't worth turning into a big thing. We're family." "You're putting us in an awkward position." I looked straight at Connor. "Were you awkward when you left me standing there looking at an empty table?" Connor lowered his head. Savannah cut in immediately. "You could still pay. You're in a better position than we are." The air went cold. Connor looked up, like he wanted to stop her. But it was too late. I nodded very slightly. "So that's the reason," I said. "Not a joke. A test." Savannah forced a laugh. "You're overthinking." "No, I'm not overthinking," I replied. "I'm just hearing exactly what you just said." I stepped half a pace closer, just enough that she had to keep her smile. "You want to keep your image," I said slowly. "Then keep it. Don't use me as a wallet for fake kindness." Connor's voice went hoarse. "Dad, can we talk in the room?" I shook my head. "No, the truth doesn't need a private room to hide." I turned away. Savannah called after me, her voice thin. "What are you going to do next?" I didn't turn back. "I already did," I answered. "The rest is for you to face." And for the first time on this ship, Connor fell completely silent. That afternoon, they tried to book a private photo session. I heard a staff member say quietly, "We only accept it with full prepayment." Savannah's tone shifted from sweet to sharp, then back to sweet. It didn't work. An hour later, Connor stood at the end of the corridor, calling someone and repeating the words, "Please," like someone paying off a debt. That night, there were 3 knocks at my door. Not Connor. A message from support. Last night's incident had been recorded, and their account was restricted from premium services until it was reviewed. I stared at that line for a long time, without satisfaction. Only clarity. Right after that, Connor texted, "Dad, can I meet you tonight at the cafe on the upper deck? I'm coming alone." I met Connor at 9 p.m. at the cafe on the upper deck. The wind blew steadily. The music from the stage drifted from far away, and the sea was black like a sheet of glass that reflected nothing. Connor arrived before me, standing by the railing, both hands in his coat pockets, his posture curled in on itself like the boy who used to wait for me to pick him up outside the ball field years ago. He turned when I came. "Dad," he said softly. No smile, no Savannah. I sat down at the table by the window. "Say it," I told him. "I didn't bring the bill with me. I didn't need a weapon. I just needed to hear whether my son would choose the truth or choose comfort. Connor swallowed. Last night, I didn't think Savannah would do that. You nodded when she ordered wine, I replied. You left the table when I went to the restroom. He looked down at the tabletop. I know. I was wrong. The silence stretched long enough for me to hear the hum of the air conditioner and the clink of glasses at the bar. Then Connor spoke, as if letting go of a rope pulled too tight. She told me this was a way to teach Dad not to control money. She said, "You always turn everything into a matter of principles." I let out a dry laugh. Principles are what raised you, Connor. He nodded, eyes red. I know, but I'm tired. Savannah is always saying we have to live up to the class of her friends. She booked this trip because she wanted photos, wanted to show off. And when I said I didn't have enough money, she said, "You would pay. You always pay." I didn't cut in. I let that sentence drop between us like a stone. Connor went on. I was going to pay you back later, I swear. But last night when she pulled me away, I was a coward. I looked straight at him. You weren't a coward because you were scared. You were a coward because you left me behind to keep the peace with someone who was humiliating me. Connor raised a hand to cover his eyes for a second. What do you want me to do? Tonight, I said, I want you to understand one thing. I'm not a cushion for the two of you anymore. I can help when I'm respected. No one gets to trade my self-respect for a photo. Connor exhaled. Savannah is panicking. Everything requires a deposit. She says someone is playing dirty. I nodded. No one is playing dirty. There's just a record. He looked at me, as if realizing I had prepared ahead of time. Who did you call? I told the truth. I only asked for it to be documented. I paid and asked them to keep the evidence. The rest is their policy. Connor sat in silence. When he spoke, his voice was smaller. I'm sorry. I didn't say it's okay. I didn't hug him either. I just nodded once, because an apology doesn't erase an action, but it's a starting point for boundaries. From now on, I said, everything between you and me will be clear. If you need help, you say it directly, in front of Savannah. No acting. No traps. Connor nodded over and over. Yes. I stood up. One more thing. Don't tell her you met me. I don't want her to turn this conversation into a weapon. Connor looked at me, confused. What are you going to do? I answered calmly. I'll live the rest of this trip like a guest, and the two of you will live with the consequences of your choices. If Savannah wants to talk, she'll have to speak with truth, not laughter. I left the cafe and walked along the deck, letting the wind dry the heat in my eyes. Back in my room, I opened the brown envelope, checked the copy and the note again. I took another photo, emailed it to myself, then turned off the light. That night, I slept more deeply than I expected. The next morning, I woke up early and went to the deck to walk. The sea was flat, the wind salty, and my head was much clearer than last night. My phone vibrated. Savannah called over and over. I let it ring out. A message came. Meet in the elevator lobby. Now. I went down to the lobby with a small cup of coffee. They were there. Connor stood behind, shoulders tense. Savannah stood in front, her smile thin as paper. What did you do to our room account? She asked. I didn't do anything, I said. I paid the bill and asked for it to be documented. She scoffed. How much do you want? I'll transfer it back. But you have to get that restriction removed. I shook my head. I have nothing to remove. Their policy runs on its own. Savannah turned to Connor. Say something. Connor looked at me, voice hoarse. Sav, apologize to Dad. Savannah flared up. Apologize? For a joke? He can pay. He always pays. Connor froze. I looked straight at Savannah. Thank you, I said. She startled. What did you say? I said thank you, I repeated, because you just told the truth in front of Connor. Savannah pulled out her phone. I'll call guest services. I'll say you harassed me. Go ahead, I replied. She called right there in the lobby, her voice fake sweet. When she held the phone out as if to force me to listen, I only said, I have a copy with the time and a signature. I also have the note you left. Savannah ended the call. Her face went pale. Connor looked at his wife like he was seeing her for the first time. An hour later, I was asked to meet with passenger services. I brought the brown envelope. In the room were the head of food and beverage from last night and a woman in a dark blue suit. Savannah was already seated. Connor stood by the door. The woman said, "Mr. Hale, please keep it brief." I put the envelope on the table and handed over the copy of the bill and the note. I said it simply. I went to the restroom. They vanished. They left a mocking message. They told staff I would pay. I did pay. I finished. I only asked for it to be documented. She looked at Savannah. "Do you deny this handwriting?" Savannah opened her mouth, then closed it. The woman nodded. "The premium services restriction will remain until the end of the voyage. Certain services will require a deposit and prepayment. Certain venues reserve the right to refuse service when there is behavior involving abandoning a companion to avoid responsibility." Savannah jumped to her feet. "So our names are being shamed?" "No," the woman replied. "It's internal documentation." I stood. "Thank you." "ADO." The head of food and beverage walked me to the door and said quietly, "Tonight there's an invitation-only dinner in the private dining room. Your name has been added." I nodded. "I'll be there." Outside the meeting room, Savannah blocked me. Her perfume was thick like a warning. "See?" she hissed. "You humiliated us in front of the staff." I looked at her, calm. "You humiliated your husband's father in front of the entire dining room. You're just tasting exactly what you served." Connor stood behind his wife, eyes avoiding mine. I said to him, "You don't have to choose between your father and your wife. You just have to choose right and wrong." Savannah let out a bitter laugh, but it no longer sounded sure. I stepped into the corridor. Connor called softly, "Dad." I didn't turn back. "If you want to talk," I said, "talk when you can stand upright. No one needs to teach you how to leave someone behind anymore." To that, with matter of expectu. That night, I wore a white dress shirt and my old charcoal blazer. Not to prove anything, just to remind myself I could walk into a dining room and walk out without asking anyone's permission. The private dining room was on an upper deck, glass walls facing the sea. The staff greeted me by name and led me to a small table by the window. On the table was a card. "Welcome, Mr. Hale." My chest felt lighter. Being called by the right name is its own kind of justice. I had barely sat down when Connor and Savannah appeared. They stood at the entrance for a few seconds. Then Savannah pulled Connor forward toward me. "Dad," Connor said, his voice hoarse. "Let us talk." I set my napkin on my lap. "Talk." Savannah tried to smile. "We want to make peace. This trip is a family memory." I looked straight at her. "A family memory doesn't begin with leaving me behind with a mocking note." Her smile stiffened. "You paid, so it's done. Why did you still let us get restricted from everything?" "I didn't let anything," I said. "I paid. I documented it. The rest is their policy." Connor muttered, "Sow." Savannah brushed him off. "What do you want? An apology? Fine." She dipped her head quickly like a stage bow. "Sorry. There. Happy?" I said flatly. "No." She froze. "No, what do you mean, no?" "An apology is accountability," I replied. "It's naming what you did and saying you won't do it again." Connor lowered his face. I saw shame in his eyes. But shame can't replace action. Savannah changed her tone, soft, damp. "I just want Connor to have a good life. All my friends." I cut her off. "A good life doesn't require using an old man as a target." She clenched her jaw. "You think you're noble?" "I think I've been too easy," I said. "And last night reminded me." I set my phone on the table like a marker. "I have the bill, the timestamp, the signature, and the note you left. If you want to keep blaming me or smearing me, I'll send copies to security and to the card company. I call that protecting myself." Connor looked up, alarmed. "Dad, don't—" I raised a hand. "Connor, listen carefully. I'm not touching your marriage. I'm only removing myself from any place where you allow someone to humiliate me." Savannah went quiet. In that silence, her layer of confidence slipped off and exposed raw irritation underneath. Connor asked softly, "So, what do you want us to do?" I listed it, one point at a time, without raising my voice. 1. Pay me back the full $3,500 within 7 days after we dock. 2. Savannah writes a clear apology, no excuses. 3. If you leave me behind again at a restaurant or anywhere, then you won't have me in the important moments anymore. Connor swallowed hard. Savannah looked at me like I was a stranger. Then she turned away and pulled Connor with her. Connor glanced back, his lips moving, but no words came. I stayed seated and ordered the soup again, like last night. This time I finished it. When the spoon touched the bottom of the bowl, I knew I had done what I should have done a long time ago. Set a boundary and hold it. No retreat. The last 3 days of the trip passed like a flat sea. I still saw them, but only the way you see two strangers crossing a corridor. Savannah busy with her phone, Connor trailing behind, his eyes avoiding every corner where he might run into me. I didn't track how many more times they were turned away. I didn't need to. The best leverage is leverage that doesn't require me to stand there and witness it. I ate breakfast on schedule, read on the deck, then attended a short talk about financial safety for seniors. I sat there listening about scams and boundaries and told myself, I should have learned this lesson sooner. On the day the ship docked, Connor found me in the baggage area. He stood in front of me holding a thick envelope. Savannah wasn't with him. Maybe she understood that this time a stage wouldn't help. Dad, Connor said softly, I transferred part of it already. This is the confirmation for the rest. I'll pay it all within the week. I took the envelope without opening it right away. Thank you, I said. Just one word, but it was a step. Connor exhaled like someone had just lifted a stone off his chest. Savannah, she'll write, Connor went on. I told her she has to. I looked at my son for a long time. Connor, what I need isn't a pretty letter. I need you to stand upright when someone treats me wrong. You can love your wife, but you can't use me as the price you pay to buy peace. He nodded. I understand. This time, I didn't save him from the consequences. Back home, I opened my filing drawer and placed the copy of the bill and the mocking note between my tax forms. I didn't do it to hold a grudge. I did it to remember. The truth needs to be kept, especially when people try to turn it into just a joke. 4 days later, the full money came through. A week later, the apology letter arrived. Not flowery, not packed with excuses. Savannah admitted she had been wrong and that she had pulled Connor away. I read it once, folded it, and put it away. I didn't text back right away. A boundary isn't a door slammed shut. A boundary is a lock you hold the key to. The next month, Connor called, asking to come by. I agreed, but made it clear. Alone, he came, sat at my kitchen table, drank tea, and for the first time in years, he asked if I was doing okay without looking to anyone else for permission. When he left, I stood at the door. I love you, I said, but I love myself too. Sips. That night, I walked around the neighborhood, feeling a light wind. My heart felt calm, like I had finally paid off an old debt. I understood that sometimes the sharpest answer isn't a loud speech. It's the moment you stop following the people who have gotten used to leaving you behind.